This is our first lesson on volcanoes. We're starting our volcano unit. I like this picture. It shows you a cinder cone in the background here. You see the fairly steep shape means it's a violent eruption. And we'll be talking about violent eruptions like this. We'll also be talking about quiet ones like Hawaii. Things like advantages to volcanoes. We'll go over how we can predict them, how we can prevent deaths. So a lot of good stuff to talk about in our volcano unit. We're starting with a couple of small topics. Those small topics we're starting with are hot springs and geysers. So first we're going to start with just a hot spring. And I don't have a place for this on your note sheet. I figured the back of the front page would be a good place. So you can flip your paper over the first page and you have a big blank space and you can write down and maybe draw a little picture for a hot spring. I think everyone pretty much knows what a hot spring is, and you can see a couple pictures of hot springs here. Basically, you have this pool of water, and lots of times it goes down fairly deeply, and it gets hot. What heats it? Magma. So if I draw a picture, this is going to be a pretty simple picture. So we have some magma down here, and then let me change my color. So here's the surface, and we have this kind of hole that goes down like this. It rains, fills in, we have groundwater, the groundwater percolates through, and we get water. So the groundwater, it rains and groundwater kind of filters in, and it's going to fill this pool up, and it's heated by the magma, and we have a hot spring. That's really all it is, a pool of water that's heated from magma underneath. Why are they different colors like this? Well, a lot of it has to do with the minerals in it, but also bacteria eating the minerals in it. Okay, so lots of different colors in these, mainly because of the bacteria that are in these. Kind of a neat picture. You can see the little bridge here, and people walking on this bridge. This is a very large hot spring. The hot spring can be lots of different temperatures depending on how close the magma is to the surface. I went to a big spot called Baldy in La Fortuna in Costa Rica, and it was pretty impressive where they had all these volcanoes kind of going up the side of the volcano, and they progressively got essentially warmer and warmer. And there were some that were just barely warm, getting all the way to the top of it, where it was so hot that you couldn't actually get in the water. It was over 145 degrees, and they just had these little piers that were over top the level of the hot spring, and you can kind of bathe in the steam. So it can all be all different temperatures because of where that magma is. So that's a hot spring. Not very complicated. A little more complicated are geysers. And there's a lot of, let me go back. There's a lot of writing here, and we'll write this down here in a second, or you can pause it to write it down. But let me kind of show it and explain it first, and then go ahead and write down how they happen. So again, it's all started by magma. So let me get my color again, go back to red, and I'm going to draw my magma. So again, I have a magma chamber down here. I'm going to draw the rock on again. But this time when I'm drawing it, you can see kind of in this picture, we have the hot spring. Hot spring is this one, and the geysers can be this one. My picture's a little different. I have my surface here, and it's going to go down. And then I'm going to put a cavity underground, okay? Kind of a cavity like this, with a pipe going up to the top. And it might have further ones going down, like in this picture, or maybe it has little offshoots even. Sometimes there's little offshoots in here. Doesn't really matter. The key is, though, it has this pipe that goes down and heats the magma. Heats the water. So let me put my water in. So this is going to start to fill up with water. So it's going to all fill up with water. So here's my water filling this whole thing in. I could fill this little cavity if you made a little cavity. If you didn't make one in. Okay, we have this big cavity full of water. Well, the magma is going to start to heat this water. And the water is going to get hotter and hotter. Okay, so the water's going to get hotter and hotter. The water down at the bottom here is going to be superheated. So it's going to get over boiling temperatures, over 212 degrees. It can get up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and still be water. Well, if you think, well, how can water be 400 degrees and not have evaporated away or boiled away? Because all of this water up here is pushing down on it, causing pressure. We know from our physics units that if you put pressure on it, okay, it's going to stay a liquid. So this water is superheated. It's like 400 degrees, but it remains liquid water because of the pressure from above. Well, eventually the heat starts working its way up here to the top. And as it does, that water gets hot. And as the water gets hot, it starts to evaporate away. Oh, I was trying to erase the water there, which obviously didn't work. Let me redraw that. Okay, so kind of redrawing that. Something like that. Okay, so the water starts to boil away at the top. When the water boils away, that means that the pressure is going to be released. So this water up here boils away, we get less and less and less water, which means there's less pressure on this water that's superheated. So eventually it can explode, and it explodes out and instantly turns to steam as a big geyser. Okay? So we read this here, it says the water in the cavity down here is superheated by the magma, but it can't boil because the pressure from the water in the pipe above. So this water is pushing down, keeping it a liquid. Eventually the water in the pipe turns to steam. That lowers the pressure and allows the superheated water in the cavity to instantly turn to steam and explode out of the pipe, like you see in here. And that's the geyser. So again, you should have this drawn and your little definition or description of how it works on the back of that first page. So make sure you've labeled this one geyser, and make sure you've labeled the previous one hot springs. And that's it for this first little lesson.